The space station Arcturus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. It was a neutral place where species from across the galaxy came to talk, trade, and make deals. Today, it held the most important meeting in human history. General Lisa Morgan stood at the observation window and watched ships arrive from distant worlds. She was 52 years old, with gray streaks in her dark hair. Her uniform carried medals from battles most people had never heard of. She had spent 30 years protecting Earth, and now she was here to secure its future. Nervous? Asked a voice behind her. Lisa turned to see General Catherine Rivera walking toward her. Kate was younger, only 45, but she commanded Earth's entire orbital defense fleet. She had a sharp mind and even sharper instincts. Not nervous, Lisa said. Careful. There is a difference. A third woman joined them. General Diana Cole was the oldest of the three at 58. She had more combat experience than anyone alive. Her hands had seen war on 3 planets, and her eyes carried the weight of every soldier she had lost. The Valorians are arrogant, Diana said quietly. They think we are children playing at war. That makes them dangerous. Ambassador Henry Blake appeared at the doorway. He was a thin man with kind eyes and a diplomatic smile that had served Earth well for 20 years. Ladies, the Emperor is ready to receive us, he said. The 4 humans walked through the station's long corridors. Aliens of all shapes and sizes watched them pass. Some looked curious. Others looked amused. A few looked afraid. Humanity was new to the galactic stage, and no one quite knew what to make of them. The throne room was massive. Golden walls rose toward a ceiling painted with stars. At the far end sat Emperor Zoreth Vel on a throne of black crystal. He was tall and thin with pale blue skin and eyes that glowed like dying suns. He had ruled the Valorian Empire for 600 years. To him, humans were insects that had just learned to crawl. "Welcome, humans," the Emperor said. His voice echoed through the chamber. "We are pleased you have accepted membership in our great empire." Ambassador Blake bowed respectfully. "We are honored, Your Majesty. Earth looks forward to a long partnership." High Commander Drexus stood beside the throne. He was a military man with scars on his face and hatred in his heart. He had opposed human membership from the beginning. To him, these creatures from a small blue planet were a threat that needed to be controlled. "There is the matter of your military," Drexus said coldly. "All member species must surrender command of their forces to the Empire. This is not negotiable." General Morgan stepped forward. "With respect, Earth's military will remain under Earth's command. We will cooperate with Imperial forces, but we will not surrender our ability to defend ourselves." Silence fell over the chamber. No one spoke to the Empire this way. No one refused their demands. Emperor Zoreth leaned forward on his throne. "You misunderstand your position, human. You do not negotiate with us. You obey. We are partners, not servants," Lisa said calmly. Earth joined the Empire as equals. Drexus whispered something in the Emperor's ear. The old ruler's eyes narrowed, and something dark passed across his face. "I have received troubling reports," the Emperor said slowly. "Reports that Earth is building weapons in secret. Reports that you plan to challenge our authority." "Those reports are false," Ambassador Blake said quickly. "Earth has no such intentions." "Lies," Drexus spat. "Human lies. They smile and bow, but they plot against us. I have seen the evidence." General Rivera took a step forward. "What evidence?" "Show us these reports." "We have nothing to hide." The Emperor raised his hand. "Enough. I have made my decision." Guards appeared from every doorway. Dozens of Valorian soldiers surrounded the human delegation with weapons drawn. Ambassador Blake went pale. The 3 generals did not move. "What is the meaning of this?" Blake demanded. You came here thinking you were our equals, the Emperor said. You are not. You are a minor species from a minor world, and you have forgotten your place. That ends now. The guards seized the 3 generals. Diana fought back, breaking one guard's arm before 3 more pinned her down. Kate and Lisa were pulled away from each other despite their struggles. These 3 represent human arrogance, the Emperor announced to the watching delegates from other worlds. They refused to submit. They spoke to me as if they had the right. Let this be a lesson to all who forget their place in my empire. No. Ambassador Blake screamed. You cannot do this. This is murder. Drexus smiled. This is justice. The Emperor nodded, and a soldier brought forward a disintegration device. It was a cruel weapon that destroyed a person 1 layer at a time. Death was slow. Death was painful. Death was public. General Diana Cole was first. She looked at her fellow generals one last time. Make them pay, she said. Then the beam hit her, and she screamed as her body turned to ash. General Catherine Rivera was next. She did not scream. She stared at the Emperor with pure hatred until the light took her. General Lisa Morgan was last. She looked at Ambassador Blake. Tell Earth what happened here, she said. Tell them everything. Then she was gone. The Emperor stood from his throne and walked toward the trembling ambassador. Go home, human. Tell your people what happens to those who defy us. Tell them to be afraid. Ambassador Blake was thrown onto a shuttle and sent back to Earth. He sat alone in the small ship, shaking, crying, and burning with a rage he had never known. Behind him, the delegates from 100 worlds watched in silence. Most had seen such cruelty before. The Empire ruled through fear, and fear kept everyone in line. But something was different this time. The humans had not begged. They had not surrendered. Even facing death, they had stood tall. And somewhere in the back of his ancient mind, Emperor Zorith felt the first cold touch of doubt. He pushed it away. Humans were nothing. Earth was nothing. He would soon learn how wrong he was. The attack came without warning. Admiral Desser was drinking wine in his quarters when the alarms began. He was an old Valorian with decades of service, and he had commanded the Border Defense Fleet for 15 years. No one had ever attacked his sector. No one was foolish enough to try. He walked calmly to the bridge, expecting some minor problem. Perhaps a trade ship in distress. Perhaps a small pirate raid. What he saw on the screen made him drop his glass. 300 human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. They did not ask for permission. They did not send warnings. They simply opened fire. Impossible, Desser whispered. The humans do not have such ships. They cannot. The first wave of missiles hit his flagship before he could finish speaking. The shields that had protected Valorian ships for centuries failed instantly. Human weapons cut through them like they were not there. Return fire, Desser screamed. All ships, return fire. His orders came too late. Captain Laura Bennett led her fighter squadrons through the chaos. She was flying a ship named Phoenix, and she moved through the battle like a ghost. Valorian fighters tried to catch her, but she was too fast, too precise, too angry. This is for Kate, she said, as she destroyed an enemy cruiser. For Lisa, for Diana. Across the border region, the story was the same. Human forces appeared from nowhere and struck with overwhelming violence. The Valorians had expected months of preparation. They had expected diplomatic attempts. They had expected fear. They got none of those things. Lieutenant Commander Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of the ESS Retribution. He was young for his rank, only 35, but he had a gift for seeing patterns in chaos. Where others saw confusion, he saw opportunity. Their ships are grouping together, he said to Admiral Grant. They think numbers will save them. They are wrong. Explain, the Admiral said. They are following their standard tactics. Formation 17. Concentrate firepower. Overwhelm the enemy. But we studied their battles for decades. We know what they will do before they do it. Morrison pointed at the screen. If we split our forces here and here, we can flank them. They will not expect it because no one has ever done it to them. Admiral Grant smiled grimly. Do it. The human fleet divided and reformed. The Valorians watched in confusion. This was not how battles were fought. This was madness. Then the madness worked. Human ships hit them from 3 directions at once. Admiral Lasar's fleet crumbled. Ship after ship exploded. Escape pods filled the darkness, but no one stopped to pick them up. There would be mercy later. Not today. Desser stood on his burning bridge and refused to leave. He was a soldier, and soldiers did not run. The last thing he saw was a human missile coming toward him. He had time for one final thought. We were wrong about them. Then he was gone. On the planet below, Cephas Prime was one of the Empire's most important border worlds. 20 million Valorians lived there. 60,000 soldiers defended it. General Victor Hayes led the ground invasion personally. Dropships fell from the sky like rain. Human soldiers poured out with weapons that made Valorian armor useless. Sergeant Nina Cross was first out of her dropship. She was a small woman with short hair and cold eyes. She had joined the military at 18 and never looked back. Now she led a squad of 20 soldiers who would follow her into fire. Move fast, stay low, show no mercy, she told her squad. They killed our generals. They laughed while they did it. Now we show them what happens when you hurt our family. The battle for Cephas Prime lasted 4 days. The Valorians fought hard, but they had never faced an enemy like this. Humans did not stop when they were wounded. They did not retreat when they were outnumbered. They kept coming and coming until there was nothing left to fight. On the 5th day, General Hayes planted Earth's flag in the capital city. He sent a message to the fleet. Target secured. Across the border, 2 more planets fell. Then 5 more. Then a dozen. Human forces swept through Valorian space like a storm. On Valoria Prime, Prince Korathvel raged at the reports. He was the Emperor's son, young and hungry for glory. He had never respected humans. He had called them animals. Now those animals were destroying his empire. Give me command of the counter fleet, he demanded. I will crush them myself. His father hesitated. The Emperor was finally beginning to understand his mistake. But his pride would not let him show weakness. Go, Zorith said. Stop them. Do not fail me. Prince Korath gathered the largest fleet in Valorian history. 2,000 warships. Millions of soldiers. Enough firepower to destroy 100 planets. He set course for the front lines. Convinced that his arrival would end this embarrassing war. In the war room on Earth, Admiral Grant watched the enemy fleet approach. They are sending everything, he said. The Emperor's son himself is coming. President Price stood beside him. Can we stop them? We can do better than stop them, the Admiral replied. We have been waiting for this. They are putting all their power in one place. When we break them here, there will be nothing between us and their homeworld. Captain Bennett appeared on the screen from her fighter. Sir, the fleet is ready. We know what we have to do. Morrison looked up from his tactical display. I have analyzed their formation. The prince is commanding from the center, surrounded by his stronger ships. He thinks it makes him safe. It makes him a target. Admiral Grant nodded slowly. Then let us show this prince what happens when you face humanity at war. The 2 fleets approached each other in the darkness between stars. This would be the largest battle in galactic history. The fate of billions rested on what happened next. And somewhere in the human fleet, pilots, soldiers, And commanders looked at pictures of 3 women who had died on a space station far away. They whispered their names like prayers. Morgan, Rivara, Cole. We will make them proud. The battle against Prince Korath's fleet lasted 7 hours. When it ended, half the Valorian ships were burning wreckage. The prince himself barely escaped in a damaged shuttle. His confident smile was gone. His fancy words were silent. He had seen what humans could do, and he would never forget the terror. Lieutenant Commander Morrison had been right about everything. The prince had surrounded himself with his best ships, thinking power would protect him. Instead, it made the target obvious. Human forces had cut through the fleet like a blade through flesh, straight toward the center. When the prince fled, his remaining ships fell into chaos. Some surrendered. Some tried to run. None escaped. Earth took prisoners for the first time, and the prisoners were shocked to be treated with basic respect. They had expected torture. They received food, medical care, and the simple words, "The war is with your leaders, not with you." Word spread quickly through the galaxy. The Valorian Empire, undefeated for thousands of years, had lost, but the war was far from over. Admiral Grant pushed deeper into Valorian space. Every week brought new battles. Every month saw new planets fall. The humans did not slow down. They did not negotiate. They barely slept. Morrison became a legend after the Battle of Cathric Station. His single ship, the ESS Fury, had been separated from the fleet during a surprise attack. Surrounded by 15 Valorian warships, most commanders would have surrendered. Morrison attacked instead. He used the station's own defense systems against the Valorian ships. He flew through asteroid fields that no one should have survived. He made decisions so fast that the enemy could not react. When the battle ended, 14 Valorian ships were destroyed. The 15th had fled. When asked later how he did it, Morrison simply said, "They expected me to be afraid. I was not afraid. I was angry." On the ground, Sergeant Nina Cross led guerrilla operations that drove Valorian commanders mad. She moved through occupied territory like a shadow, appearing and disappearing before anyone could catch her. Local populations, oppressed by the Empire for generations, began helping her. They provided food, shelter, and information. "You are not like the Valorians," a village elder told her one night. "They took and gave nothing back. You fight, but you protect the innocent." Why? Cross thought about the question. "Because that is what humans do," she said finally. "We protect those who cannot protect themselves, even if it costs us everything." The elder nodded slowly. "Perhaps the galaxy needed someone like you?" As months passed, cracks appeared throughout the Empire. Military commanders began refusing orders that would kill their own soldiers pointlessly. Citizens questioned why they were dying for an emperor who lived in luxury while they suffered. Other subjugated species watched and waited. Dr. Maria Santos arrived at the front lines with a new weapon. It was called the Cascade bomb, and it was the most terrible thing humans had ever built. A single device could destabilize a star, causing it to explode and destroy everything in its system. "We built this as a last resort," she told Admiral Grant. "If we were losing, if Earth itself was threatened. But now we have a choice. We can demonstrate its power and perhaps end this war faster." The Admiral stared at the device for a long time. "What would we destroy?" "The Catherine system. It is uninhabited except for military bases. No civilians. But it is a major staging point for Valorian forces. If we destroy it, they will lose their ability to counterattack. And they will know we can destroy anything." "Do it," the Admiral said quietly. "And make sure the Emperor is watching." 3 days later, the Kethron system vanished in a flash of light so bright it could be seen from a dozen other systems. 6 Valorian battle groups, hundreds of ships, gone in an instant. On Valoria Prime, Emperor Verith watched the footage with trembling hands. His advisors stood in terrified silence. No one had ever possessed such power. No one had ever used it. "They will destroy us," the Emperor whispered. "They will destroy everything." High Commander Drexus stepped forward. He had urged the execution of the generals. He had told the Emperor that humans were weak. Now his soldiers blamed him for the disaster. His own guards looked at him with hatred. "We must negotiate," Drexus said desperately. "We must offer peace before." He never finished speaking. A young officer stepped forward and shot him in the chest. Drexus fell, staring up in shock as his life faded away. "That was from my family on Kethrix," the officer said. "They died because of your arrogance." No one stopped him. No one mourned Drexus. He had started this war with his whisperers and lies. Now he paid the price. Emperor Verith became increasingly unstable. He executed generals for minor failures. He ordered impossible attacks. He retreated to his private chambers and refused to see anyone. The empire was falling apart, and he could not stop it. Prince Korath, shamed by his defeat, tried to rebuild his reputation. He led another fleet against the humans. They destroyed it in half a day. He barely escaped again, this time with wounds that would scar him forever. Across the galaxy, other species began quietly providing intelligence to Earth. Trade routes, military positions, secret codes. They were too afraid to openly rebel, but they could help from the shadows. Admiral Grant stood on the bridge of the ESS Retribution and looked at the map of conquered territory. Human forces now controlled a quarter of the empire. The Valorian homeworld was within reach. How much longer? President Price asked via secure communication. "Months, not years," the admiral replied. "Their military is broken. Their leaders are turning on each other. We have lost many good soldiers, but the end is coming." He paused and looked at the names on his wall. 3 names. 3 women who had died to start this war. "We are almost there," he said softly. "We are almost home." On a transport ship behind the front lines, Captain Laura Bennett sat alone in her quarters. She had flown more missions than she could count. She had killed more enemies than she wanted to remember. And every night, she still saw Kate Rivara's face. "I hope you can see this," she whispered to the empty room. "I hope you know what we have done for you. For all of you." She closed her eyes and dreamed of peace. But peace was still far away. There was one more battle to fight. The biggest one of all. The assault on Valoria Prime was coming. The human fleet arrived at Valoria Prime on a bright morning. 300 ships hung in orbit around the jewel of the Empire, their weapons armed, their crews ready. Below them, the Valorian homeworld sparkled with ancient cities and golden towers. 40 billion people looked up at the sky and knew their world had changed forever. For thousands of years, they had been the masters. Now, they were the conquered. Admiral Grant stood on the bridge of the ESS Retribution and studied the planet's defenses. There were still ships defending the homeworld. Still soldiers willing to fight. But it was not enough. It was never going to be enough. "Broadcast on all channels," he ordered. His voice echoed across the planet. "This is Admiral Samuel Grant of the Earth Defense Force. Your border fleets are destroyed. Your military bases are gone. Your emperor has led you to ruin. We offer you one chance. Surrender now, and this ends without more death. Resist, and we will do what we must." For an hour, there was silence. Then the Valorian defense fleet opened fire. "So be it," Grant said quietly. "All ships, engage." The last battle for Valoria Prime lasted 3 days. Human forces dismantled the orbital defenses, piece by piece. Captain Bennett led fighter squadrons through the chaos, just as she had done at every battle before. Her ship was hit twice, but she kept flying. She would not stop until it was over. Prince Korath commanded the final defense. He had gathered every soldier he could find, every ship that still flew, every weapon that still worked. His face was scarred from his previous escapes. His eyes were hollow from sleepless nights. But he refused to surrender. "We are Valorian," he screamed at his troops. "We do not bow to anyone." His courage meant nothing. Morrison found a gap in the defense grid and exploited it within minutes. Human ships poured through, and the Valorian line collapsed. Prince Korath's flagship was surrounded. "Surrender," Morrison transmitted. "You have lost. Do not waste more lives." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Korath's weapons powered down. His remaining ships followed. The space battle was over. On the ground, General Victor Hayes led the invasion personally. Dropships fell toward the capital city as the population watched in terror. But Hayes had given strict orders. No unnecessary destruction, no harm to civilians, no revenge killings. "We are not them," he told his troops. "We fight soldiers. We do not murder innocents. Remember that, or you answer to me." The ground forces swept through the city with professional precision. Sergeant Nina Cross led her squad toward the Imperial Palace. They faced heavy resistance at first, but word had spread that humans treated prisoners fairly. More and more Valorian soldiers threw down their weapons. By evening, Cross stood at the gates of the palace. Emperor Zorath's personal guards waited inside, the last defense between the ruler and justice. "Open the gates," Cross called out. "Your emperor will face trial for his crimes. That is the only option." The guards hesitated. They had served Zorath for decades, but they had also watched him destroy their empire through arrogance and cruelty. One by one, they lowered their weapons and stepped aside. Cross entered the palace with her squad. The golden halls were silent. Servants had fled. Advisors had vanished. Only shadows remained. They found Emperor Zorath in his throne room. He sat on his black crystal throne, dressed in ceremonial robes, looking exactly as he had on the day he killed the 3 generals. But his eyes were different now, empty, defeated. "So," the Emperor said, "the insects have come to claim their victory." Cross looked at the ancient ruler without fear. "You are under arrest for the murder of General Lisa Morgan, General Catherine Rivera, and General Diana Cole, and for crimes against humanity and the free peoples of the galaxy." Zorath laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Crimes? I am an emperor. I do not commit crimes. I make law." "Not anymore," Cross said. General Hayes arrived with more soldiers. The emperor was placed in chains and led from his throne room. He did not resist. Perhaps some part of him had always known this day would come. The trial was held on Arcturus Prime, the same station where the generals had been executed. Representatives from across the galaxy attended. Species that had suffered under Valorian rule for centuries watched as their oppressor faced judgment. President Daniel Price spoke for humanity. "Emperor Zorath Vel, you stand accused of murder, tyranny, and crimes against sentient beings too numerous to list. You killed 3 officers of the Earth Defense Force to make an example. You believed we would be afraid. You were wrong. The evidence was presented. The recording of the executions played once more. Witnesses testified about atrocities committed across the Empire. Prince Korath was brought forward in chains to face his own charges. The trial lasted 3 days. The verdict took 3 minutes. Guilty on all counts. Emperor Zorath was sentenced to death by the same method he had used on the generals. Disintegration. Slow, painful, public. He faced his execution without begging. Perhaps he had some dignity left. Perhaps he simply knew it would make no difference. Either way, when the beam hit him, The 1,000-year dynasty of the Valorian Empire ended. Prince Korath and other war criminals received life imprisonment. They would spend their remaining years in cells, remembering what their arrogance had cost. After the trial, President Price stood before the gathered species of the galaxy. "We did not seek this war," he said. "We did not want to destroy an empire. But when they killed our people, when they thought we would submit, they discovered something about humanity. We do not forget. We do not abandon our own. And we do not stop until justice is done." He paused and looked at the memorial that had been built in the station's central chamber. 3 names carved in stone. 3 women who would never be forgotten. General Lisa Morgan, General Catherine Rivera, General Diana Cole. They died far from home, surrounded by enemies, refusing to bow. They represent the best of what we are. And today, we honor their sacrifice. In the silence that followed, Captain Laura Bennett stood at attention with tears streaming down her face. Sergeant Nina Cross stood beside her, stoic but proud. Admiral Grant watched with the weight of victory on his shoulders. Morrison, Hayes, Dr. Santos, and Ambassador Blake stood together, representing everyone who had fought, sacrificed, and lost. Earth established a new galactic council based on equality. No more emperors. No more masters and servants. Every species would have a voice. Every people would be free. The war was over. The cost had been terrible. Thousands of human soldiers would never return home. Entire planets had been devastated. But something new had been born from the ashes. As the human delegation prepared to return to Earth, Ambassador Blake stood once more at the observation window of Arcturus Prime. He remembered standing here 2 years ago with 3 women who had become his friends. He remembered their courage. He remembered their final words. "We made them pay," he whispered. "Just like you asked." Every single one of them. Somewhere in the stars, he liked to think they heard him. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. And in schoolrooms across 1,000 worlds, children would learn the story of how an empire killed 3 generals and lost everything. Because humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. And humanity never stops protecting its own. The Verith border outpost of Station Krell was a small facility on the edge of their space. 50 soldiers lived there, monitoring traffic and collecting taxes from passing traders. It was boring work, but safe. Nothing ever happened at Station Kreldon until the night the humans came. Commander Ryan Mitchell watched from the bridge of the Resolute as the first missile struck the station. The Verith barely had time to send a distress signal before their shields collapsed. Human fighters swarmed the wreckage, destroying escape pods and communication arrays with cold precision. It was over in 8 minutes. "No survivors, Admiral," Ryan reported. Daniel Carter nodded. His face showed no emotion. "Move to the next target." The fleet vanished back into hyperspace, leaving behind nothing but debris and silence. For weeks, the Verith did not understand what was happening. Outposts went quiet. Supply ships disappeared. Military bases reported attacks by unknown vessels, then stopped reporting entirely. High Warlord Kethra demanded answers from his intelligence officers. They had none to give. "It cannot be the humans," one officer insisted. "They do not have the ships. They do not have the technology. This must be pirates or rebels." Kethra was not convinced. He ordered increased patrols and tighter security. It made no difference. The attacks continued. Lieutenant Diana Cole worked in the communications center of the Resolute. She was Nathan Cole's younger sister, and she had volunteered for this mission the day after the attack on Earth. Her brother had been on leave in Chicago when the bombs fell. "I'm intercepting Verith military traffic," she told Admiral Carter. "They're confused, sir. They don't know where we'll hit next. Good, Daniel replied. Let them wonder. The human fleet moved like ghosts through Verith space. They struck without warning and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. They used tactics that no galactic military had ever seen. Ambushes from asteroid fields. Attacks from multiple directions at once. Jamming signals that left Verith ships blind and deaf. The Verith had fought many wars over thousands of years. They had never faced an enemy like this. News of the attack spread through the galaxy. The Galactic Concord watched with growing concern as reports came in. Human ships were faster than expected. Human weapons were more powerful than expected. And most disturbing of all, humans were not taking prisoners. This is barbaric, a Concord diplomat complained during an emergency meeting. The humans are violating every code of warfare. They show no mercy. They were shown none, another voice replied quietly. Across Verith space, the destruction continued. Shipyards burned. Fuel depots exploded. Communication arrays went silent. The infrastructure that supported the Verith military was being systematically destroyed. Admiral Carter employed psychological warfare along with conventional attacks. He never made demands. He never communicated. He simply appeared, destroyed everything, and disappeared again. The silence was more terrifying than any threat. Verith soldiers began to break under the pressure. They jumped at shadows. They saw human ships in every sensor ghost. Some units refused to patrol border regions. Others deserted entirely. Megan Carter's ship, the Ghost, continued its reconnaissance missions. She found the location of Valoria Prime, the largest naval base in Verith space. It was the home of their main battle fleet, protected by massive orbital shields and hundreds of defense platforms. If we take Valoria Prime, we break their navy, she reported to her father. Daniel studied the intelligence reports. The base was heavily defended. An attack would cost many lives, but it had to be done. Begin preparations, he ordered. The Battle of Valoria Prime began on a cold morning by Earth's calendar. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace all around the Verith base, surrounding it completely. Alarms screamed across the station as soldiers scrambled to their positions. Warlord Kethra himself was at Valoria Prime. He watched the human ships on his tactical display and felt something he had not felt in a very long time: fear. Destroy them, he commanded. All ships, all weapons, fire at will. The battle that followed was the largest in galactic history. Thousands of ships exchanged fire in the darkness between worlds. Human fighters danced between Verith capital ships, striking weak points and drawing fire away from larger vessels. Commander Nathan Cole led the attack on the station's shield generators. His squadron had to fly directly into the heaviest defenses, knowing that most of them would not survive. For Earth, Nathan said, as he pushed his fighter to maximum speed. His sister Diana listened from the communications center as his squadron approached the target. She heard the screams as fighters exploded around him. She heard his breathing grow heavy as he dodged missile after missile. The shield generators were massive structures, protected by layers of armor. Nathan's weapons were not enough to destroy them, but his ship was. "Tell Dad I'm sorry I missed dinner," Nathan transmitted. Then his signal went silent. The explosion took out 3 shield generators at once. The station's defenses flickered and failed. Human ships poured through the gap, targeting reactors and weapon systems. Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching the battle unfold. He heard the report of his best pilot's death. He did not pause. He did not grieve. There would be time for that later. "All ships, focus fire on their command section," he ordered. And this. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, Valoria Prime was a field of debris. Half of the Verith military had been destroyed in a single engagement. Diana Cole sat alone in the communications center, tears streaming down her face. Her brother was gone, but his sacrifice had broken the enemy's back. The surviving Verith ships fled toward their homeworld. Kethra was among them, his flagship damaged but still functional. He had never lost a battle before. He had never imagined that humans could fight like this. Admiral Cotter watched the retreating ships and felt no satisfaction. This was not about victory. This was not about glory. This was about one thing only. "Set course for Valoria Prime," he ordered. The human fleet gathered itself and jumped to hyperspace. They were coming for the heart of the Dominion now. They were coming to finish what the Verith had started. Behind them, the wreckage of Valoria Prime drifted in the darkness. Alien observers watched from a safe distance, recording everything. They transmitted their reports to the Galactic Concord, to their home governments, to anyone who would listen. The message was simple. Do not anger the humans. Do not harm their children. Do not mistake their kindness for weakness. Because when humans go to war, they do not stop until the war is won.